before we go over everything, how are you feeling today?
Tired.
Okay. How's the nausea?
I just was pretty strong this morning, but not too bad right now.
Okay. I think after going over your diagnostic tests, we were able to accomplish what we wanted to this week. So I think that you'll see a decrease in those things over time, over a period of the next couple of weeks. The main thing that was really impacting it, from our perspective at least, is going to be the nystagmus that you had, which are those eye movements where they're moving. Basically, your eyes are drifting one way and then refocusing, and that can cause disorientation and nausea as well. So I think that you'll see over the next coming weeks the nausea should decrease. For now, let's look at your testing here. Let's start with cognitive testing. Green row here is going to be your scores from Monday, and then top row are going to be your scores from today. Standardized assessment of cognition was already really good to begin with, 28 out of 30 coming in. It's still 28 out of 30 now as well. Looks like we lost 1 point with orientation. Did you not know like what time it was or something like that? Or did it not tell you?
The date I got wrong.
The date. Okay, that's understandable. And then let's see. So we did one better with concentration, so that's good there. And then we just lost the point on the date, which made it from going to a 29 out of 30. So no big deal. Trails A, Trails B, and then processing speed all together. Already lightning quick when you came in with the Trails A and the Trails B. Trails B is going to be more like multitasking, and then processing speed as well is already really high. So a slight decrease in all three of these scores here, but nothing too substantial where we're worried about it at all. If this was bad to begin with and then we see a decrease as well, there's going to be more concern, but the fact that we were already doing so well with them, to see a slight decrease like this is really nothing too concerned about, especially when you factor in fatigue and being tired today as well. Here we see simple reaction time. You actually improved your score by about about 20 milliseconds here. And then with the choice reaction time, you're a little bit slower. With this, it's all measured in milliseconds, so a little bit of a discrepancy like that.
We had some issues with that one.
Yes, yeah, Carlos was saying as well, it wasn't registering the dual touch as well.
It wasn't registering, my finger was on it.
Yeah, yeah. Visual acuity, a 0 when you came in, which is really good. We're really looking for anything below 1.8. We want to get as close to 0 as possible, but a 0.6, again, these are all just variations of normal. The fact that the cognitive testing was so good to begin with, you're going to get some variations of that, but this lines up perfectly with what your symptoms are. Your symptoms aren't cognition, right? You're coming in and you're fully aware of what's going on and things like that. So we're not expecting these to be bad. They were actually really good to begin with, and they're still really good right now too. Any questions with the cognitive exam? Next up we have balance. Now this is something that was very important to get corrected because the balance is indicative of a cerebellar function, which is the back of your brain responsible for motor coordination, stability, but also things like nausea as well. So given why you were coming in, we really wanted to see this improve. And in particular, the balance was really good to begin with, but in particular, the looking up is where we had some difficulty. And when we look at concussions, a lot of the time what happens is your brain kind of has these little rotations that occur around the brainstem which cause it to need to be recalibrated. And one of the things that suffers as a result are particular areas of balance. So that's why we really wanted to get this information and then also see if we can improve it. And we did improve this week with balance, so that's very good to see. Went from 59% stability all the way up to 76, which is huge. And then when you're looking at the adjusted score where 100% would be average for somebody your age, below average would be lower than 100%. We see that you went from the 84th percentile all the way up to 109. So very good with that. We did have a slight decrease with the head left, but that's very explainable and understandable because this whole week we were basically focusing on decreasing the function of the left cerebellum and increasing the function of the right. So that's why we were spinning you to the right. We were having you do that isometric contraction with the left to try to better that balance and that symmetry between the two. So to see a decrease in the left actually makes perfect sense. Going down from 107% to a 98%, nothing too major, especially considering what we were trying to accomplish this week as well. So with this in particular, given that you had the nystagmus too, we really wanted to see those posterior canals, which is what's stimulated when you look up, improve in function. And you're already really good with everything else as well. Any questions with balance?
No.
Next up here, looking at sacudometer. This is when you first came in, when you had the nose piece. Here we're looking at two things. We are looking at cerebellar function. We're also looking at frontal lobe function. Remember, for you, cerebellum is going to be the most important. Top right here, we're looking at frontal lobe function. We want all of these lines, which represent your eye movements, to be at 200 or below. So coming in, you already were exactly where we wanted you to be. And then with this, we just wanted to clean this up a little bit. The lines are really supposed to start at 0 and go up and then land around 18 to 22. Reason being, the targets are 20 degrees apart from each other, and then there's a little bit of leeway with that because most people's eyes don't land exactly where they're supposed to the degree. So around 18 to 22 is the normative values here. We just wanted to clean this up, see if we can make it a little bit more narrow. And then these here are again when you looked at the wall where the target was supposed to be before the target popped up. So nothing really that we're measuring with this test. They're more outliers, and it's just because it's easy to predict where the dot's going to be because it's the same position every time. So what it looks like today is we're actually seeing that it's actually more narrow, more clean as well. We do see that there's a little bit of that pattern still that's indicative of a tight neck. However, given your symptoms, I think it's best to wait a couple weeks before we do any kind of adjustment or anything to fix the tight neck. It might even correct on its own with the exercises that we send home with. But in terms of the accuracy, we see that it's still within that 18 to 22 range and actually a little bit more narrow as well. When we're looking up here at the frontal lobe function, we still see that everything is below that 200 mark too. And then we also just have those anticipatory eye movements where you're just predicting where the laser is going to be as well. Now where we really wanted to see improvement, like I was mentioning, was the nystagmus. And again, this is the eye movements that we were able to detect when we had the goggles over your eyes and then the cover was over your eyes. Most aberrant eye movements occur when you can't focus on something. So by putting the cover over your eyes and using the infrared cameras, we're basically able to detect what eye movements you're experiencing when we're not able to focus on anything. So what you see here, this red line is supposed to be exactly as straight as possible. On this graph, when you're going up, that means that your eyes are moving to the right, and then when you're going down, it means your eyes are moving to the left. This is your left eye, this is your right eye. So what we see is that your eyes are drifting up to the right, and then they have a correction down to the left. Then they're drifting again to the right, and then to the left. So we want to, that basically symbolizes that there's an imbalance between the left vestibular system and the right vestibular system. Your left inner ear will push your eyes to the right, and the right inner ear pushes your eyes to the left. They should be in balance, and they would equal each other out, and you don't have any movement. But what we're seeing here is there's an imbalance, particularly when your eyes are drifting to the right. It lets us know that that left inner ear is too strong, and the right one is too weak. When we're looking at today, when we reran the test, we see here that this is just you looking somewhere voluntarily, same here, but the rest of the test, for a majority of this 15 seconds, about 13 seconds, it's pretty much as straight as we can get. So that nystagmus is gone, which again, when we're talking about something like nausea, is going to be one of the most impactful findings that we have here. So it's very, very good. That was kind of our main goal, was to see if we can get this eliminated. So the fact that we don't have this anymore should be very, very good for you moving forward. The other thing that we really wanted to work on were the optokinetic reflexes. This is where the red and black bars were going across the screen. And this is something that's also very important when you're talking about nausea. This is when you're more in motion now. So when you're in the car, when you're running, when you're walking. But even so, we still want to make these as efficient as possible. The pattern for this should be something like this area here, a saw blade or shark tooth pattern, but we want it to be extrapolated throughout the entire course of the test. This is what your results were when the stimulation, the red and black bars, were going to the left. And then when it was going to the right on Monday, this is what it looked like. And remember, we were saying that this is more of those square wave jerks or more of those eye shakiness patterns that occur, not necessarily the actual reflex. The reflex is going to be more of this pointy type of saw blade shark tooth pattern. So we see that even though you have a little bit of a jagged edge here, it's not quite the reflex that we want. We want this area to be extrapolated throughout the entire course of the test. So let's see what everything looks like today. Today in the horizontal plane, everything's looking fantastic. When the stimulation's going to the left, you see that nice saw blade shark tooth pattern there throughout the entire duration. And then when we're going to the right as well, we see a nice pattern there too with one outlier there, but everything else looks fantastic. So those reflexes in the horizontal plane really came back nicely, and very happy with those results there. When we're looking at vertical is where you had the most work to do, and we didn't really have much of the reflex coming in here, and then that's in the downward direction on Monday and also in the upward direction as well. There's a lot of room for improvement with that. This we're still going to need to work on. We're not out of the woods with this one. We have some work to do. This is what it looks like today in the downward direction, and then upward as well. Now there's some fatigue at play here, so we're going to retest this here to make sure that you have it. But part of what we're going to do is when we send you home with the exercises, we'll have you hook the video that we send you up to your TV. That way we can get large field, and then that way we can focus on getting more of a surface area as opposed to having you watch it on your computer or tablet or something like that. So we know that we were able to have this be effective for you in the horizontal plane, so now we just need a little bit more time to get the vertical plane up to par as well. And typically you see that when we're talking about neurological recovery, the areas of the brain that develop first are going to be the horizontal areas, and then the vertical areas develop after. So typically that's how it works with recovery too. You're going to see more improvements in the horizontal planes first, then the vertical will follow as well. Any questions with this at all?
No, I've always had issues with the up and down.
Okay, even when you've come before as well?
Yeah, the first maybe 2 weeks I was here, I couldn't look down at all.
Okay. Look down or with the reflex?
I couldn't even look down.
Okay.
So vertical makes sense. It still needs some
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah, and some of these eye movements can be very stubborn too, so it's always nice to see when we're able to have an impact on them in the week that you're here. That lets us know that when we extrapolate that over time, it's pretty much just a factor of time now. Whereas sometimes we do the therapy here and the eye movements kind of stay the same. Doesn't happen too often, but there is a decent amount where that does happen. So it's nice to see that we're able to make most of the changes that we wanted to see with the eye movements. Now we just have to work on that vertical area.
The horizontals look great. That's the best they've ever been.
Yeah, they look great. Just so that you can see a comparison, that's what yours look like, and then when we're looking at like a textbook one, which you know how it is in real life, most people never get textbook, but I can pull it up for you right here. So that's basically what like a textbook one would look like, and that's what yours look like, so pretty much right there. So any questions with any of the diagnostic tests before we move into the exam?
Nope.
Okay. All right, let's have you sit